Welcome to the Conscious Classroom podcast, where we're exploring tools and perspectives that support educators and anyone who works with teens to create more conscious, supportive, and enriching learning environments. I'm your host, Amy Edelstein, and I'll be sharing transformative insights and easy-to-implement classroom supports that are all drawn from mindful awareness and systems thinking. The themes we'll discuss are designed to improve your own joy and fulfillment in your work and increase your impact on the world we share. Let's get on with this next episode. Today in the Conscious Classroom, we're going to talk about the joy of being in school, however we meet. We're meeting, most of us, virtually. We're seeing our students behind emojis or memes. We occasionally see a head peek out when the cameras turn on. But it's a very different world. Still, some of the things about the classroom environment are the same. And that's that joy of connecting with our students, being able to share our love for our subject matter with them, and really provide them with some stability, some positivity, optimism, and focus during this time of so much worry and concern. I want to share some tips and tools for making your online classroom easy, engaging, supportive, welcoming, and to use the elements of mindful awareness and active listening to really bring a sense of engagement, safety, and support into your online classrooms. This week was our first week back at school for the Inner Strength Teen program. We're in about 50 classrooms a week, and we're giving students the full mindfulness, social, emotional, and perspective-taking, critical thinking lessons that are part of our regular teen program. But of course, given all of the things that we're dealing with, given the COVID-19 limitations, as well as stressors, we're changing that program to adapt to the times. And we're really focusing on giving students a break from academics and opening their sense of discovery about their own inner world. You know, online teaching is just a very different animal. One of the things that I think students miss the most, as well as the teachers that I work with, are all of those little exchanges of information, that sense of friendship and camaraderie, collegiality and community, the information sharing and the emotional support that happens when teachers meet each other in the break room, or students see their peers in the hallway or at their lockers or in the lunchroom. And that kind of thing just doesn't happen in the same way online. We're more connecting one-to-one. And even when we're online in a group, usually the sense as a lecturer or as a student is of being somehow on your own in relationship with another person. It's very hard to build that sense of group, that sense of community, that sense of collective. Some of the tips that I'm going to share with you are about how to create that sense of flow and community that happens when we're in person. One of the positives about the online teaching is that it's breaking down some barriers and walls where teachers were perceived by students as being these figures at the top, in front of the classroom or behind their desks or giving grades. And they weren't necessarily seen as parents, people with kids, people with pets, people with hobbies, people with books, people with kitchens. And now that we're on video, we're starting to see each other's lives. And even though there are issues of privacy, really that breakdown of the divide between school and home, the divide between our personhood and our roles, loosening that is really important. I think it's really helping. I think it's helping humanize teachers. I think it's creating ways for students to contribute so they're not always in a learning or passive or inferior, lower role. And I think that I've seen students really brighten up. In one of my classes, the teacher is really not good with technology, as he is the first to admit. And there's one student in the 9th grade class who's really good at technology. So the student's always being asked to help the teacher out, to troubleshoot, to figure out why the audio doesn't work or the camera doesn't work, or guiding on breakout rooms. And the student's very respectful, but very helpful. And it's giving young people a sense that they can contribute, and without undermining the adult's role as the leader of the class and the organizing principal of the class. So there's a new kind of exchange, which I think is really wholesome. I think it's really positive. And I feel like what I am seeing with students is that they're also able to share more with their families. Again, a teenager is going to come home from school. Your mom or your dad is going to say, how was school? And generally, teenagers like to have sort of a one-syllable vocabulary. Fine. Okay. I guess that's 2 syllables. 1-word vocabularies. How was school? Not bad. Same as always. But now, because they're in class, in the house, and many parents are working from home, or the caretakers are in the house, what they're seeing is they're able to see what's happening in school. They're able to listen in. Or students sometimes will get called out of the room by a parent and share what they're doing. We were doing a mindful movement section in a class, and the student's mom was around the corner in the kitchen, and she called him over for something, and he told her what he was doing, and she came to the edge of the kitchen door and did the mindful movement together with her son and with the class. It was really lovely to see that sense of sharing, and especially around tools of mindful support and stress reduction and focus and ease and compassion building. When you start seeing teens being able to share that in their home environment, it's very uplifting. It gives them something that they can bring. It gives them something from school they can share that's helpful for everyone. And it blurs those boundaries. It blurs those edges. So parents are invited in. They're not just, involved in the school when it comes to grades and parent-teacher meetings or disciplinary actions or college meetings. It involves them in the day-to-day and in the love of learning. And that's a really wholesome relationship to build between families and communities. The other blending that I see that really lights students up is seeing their teachers' pets. One of the teachers who also does mindfulness with his students, in addition to our program in the class, he has 3 cats. And the cats are kind of always walking across the background of his setup, or sometimes a little bit closer on the keyboard. And the students love it, and they also like to share about it. this week, one of the girls had her hand raised, and her camera off, but that the little Zoom hand was raised. And I kept calling on her. Say, oh, would you like to say something? And it took her a long time to get unmuted. And then she said, oh, my cat always walks across my keyboard, and she raises my hand, but then she's in the way, so I can't get unmuted to talk. But I didn't have anything to say. It was my cat who wanted to be involved. These students really enjoy being free and being able to not be perfect, being free and being able to really share those kinds of faux pas in a class in a way that's welcome. And I think this COVID situation has upended life so much for all of us that there's just room for all of our humanity. There's room for spontaneity. There's room to be human beings, not just squeezed into the confines of the role that we're in. When you're working with your students, really allow space for those moments to arise. Allow space for your students to be human. No, you don't need to call them out and embarrass them. I have the student whose mother was in the background. I didn't recognize her or say anything. She was clearly trying to stay out of the vision line, but it was nice to see her. And what it did is it gave me the opportunity to say, all of you can share the tools that we're doing, the mindfulness exercises with your siblings, with your parents. Show them what we're doing, and you can even do it together. So having her in the background gave me an opportunity to say that, and so that she knew that she was welcome. We want to, in this online world, look for relatedness, look for ways to humanize ourselves, to connect, to find small delights, and to value them so that those things start taking the forefront of a student's experience rather than fear or stress. I'm going to give you a few tips that will help you create a better relationship with your students in online classrooms. These are small things that you can do for every class, and it really helps to humanize and to create a sense of community and an environment. I'm sure you're all learning different tools that you can practice along the way, but here are a few that really do make a difference, and you'll start to see a little more engagement with your students as they come in. The first one, when students initially come online and you see their names pop up, welcome them in one by their name. Call their names, ask them how they are. Say, Shayla, it's so nice to see you. Good morning. Good morning, Jonas. How are you? Welcome. I see Kylie coming in. Hi, Kylie. How are you doing this morning? One by one, really welcome them. Put it in the chat as well, and encourage them to say hello to their classmates in the chat as they come in. Keep establishing relationship and relatedness between students and their classmates. Students retreat and they get dulled by being online, as we all do, and we want to help them remember that they're friends who are there and keep leaning into a relationship even through the virtual medium. Put a question in the chat that can be answered on a scale of 1 to 5. How are you doing today? Was the breakfast, how does the breakfast you ate today rate on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being the best pancakes with maple syrup, and 1 being just a piece of cold toast. And get them to put in, on a scale of 1 to 5, how their breakfast rated. You can also put in a chat, what's your favorite thing that happened between the time you woke up and this moment? one little thing, one positive thing, one of the best things that happened since you woke up. And maybe it's you found your favorite shirt and wore it. Maybe it's you managed to arrive to class on time. Maybe you were happy to see your mom. Maybe you had fun walking your dog. Whatever it was, one good thing that was happening. Even if it was totally hectic, there's always one small good thing. Maybe your teeth just felt great after you brushed them. Find little things. Keep your students focused on the positive. There is plenty of negative going around, way more than we need. We want to build love and kindness for self and for other. Sometimes teachers feel if they just focus on the positive, the happy things, that it's avoidance. Studies have shown that when we engage around positive things and show interest in each other's positive experiences, it creates intimacy, it creates a sense of closeness. Again, we're trying to build closeness, build intimacy, and build relationship as we're in this socially distanced virtual world. When you put your students in breakout rooms, encourage them to turn their cameras on, even for 5 seconds, and say hello to their friends. And this is without any adult around. Some students are shy to be on camera. Some students don't want their backgrounds shown in camera for a variety of reasons. And it's okay not to force them, but if you're inviting them to turn their cameras on just to wave to their friends, that's a whole different thing. You're inviting them to create relationship. You're inviting them to be connected, and that can be really nice. In the breakout rooms, do pop in to each one. What I found is when we do our mindfulness exercises and then students go into their breakout rooms to discuss a specific question, it needs to be quite specific because you can't really go around and monitor, so you need to make sure that your instructions are clear. But the breakout rooms really give students time to be with each other, but they don't always know what to do in breakout rooms. So sometimes I popped in and they all have their cameras off and they're not talking. And so I have to pop in and ask them if they remembered what we're talking about. And once I get them going, they have a lot to say, or they'll have little questions. And you get some more intimate time with your students then. You know, you'll be in breakout rooms of 4 students, and they're usually 1 or 2 will really want to engage with you. And it's good to have that more intimate time. Being just a tiny little tile on a screen with 30 other little tiles, it just feels kind of oddly exposed and anonymous at the same time. You know, you feel like you're right there and everyone's staring at you, and at the same time you feel like nobody sees you, nobody talks to you, nobody can really feel into your mood, how you're feeling, the way we can when we're with each other in person. So in those small breakout rooms, really use them to cycle through. Usually in a class of 30, you might have 7 breakout rooms, and you can click through each of them. If the students are in there for 15 minutes, it usually gives you enough time. So those are a couple of ways to really invite communication, relationship, friendship, and creating community. And you want to really use language that invites students to feel like they're in community, where you're referencing us as a classroom, us as a learning module, us as a meditator's cohort. Notice how when we meditate as a group, when we practice our mindfulness exercises as a group, it's easier than when we're alone. Even though we're not talking to each other, we're not saying anything, when we practice paying calm attention to our breath or to sensations in our body, we feel that updraft, that support of the group. We all affect each other. we all help each other and we all uplift each other. Remind them when things go particularly well in the classroom. Notice the energy of the group. Notice how as a group we're all being uplifted by this great report we just heard. Keep reminding them that we're in this together. And this will help with some of the isolation and frustration and alienation that students may feel. Let's do a meditation that will help with a sense of connectedness. And we're going to do a sound meditation that helps turn the attention towards shared experience, even though we're not in the same building together. So do this one along with me. Take your best mindfulness posture. Let your spine be tall. Let your head find its balance point so it's floating at the top of your neck. If your spine is feeling a little bit cramped, do a gentle twist to the right and then the left, wringing out your spine, creating a little movement and flexibility. And now begin to put your attention on your breath, allowing your attention to be soft and easy, relaxed and focused. No effort, no tension, simply resting your awareness on the inhalation and the exhalation. As you rest your attention on the breath, let your mind also be aware of the whole world of human beings, animals and fish, birds, and even plants, breathing in and breathing out. And now turn your attention to sounds. Notice all the sounds in the room where you are. Each of us are listening to sounds, all of us turning our sense door of sound towards the environment that we're sitting in. Maybe you hear a dog or cat walking or breathing or grooming. Maybe you hear the heat or the fan. Maybe you hear just the regular noises of the building, little creaks and pops. Maybe you hear footsteps in another room. Let your attention rest on the sounds, all of us hearing, noticing being aware of the texture, the tone, the vibration, and the quality of all the little sounds in our immediate surroundings. And now notice the sounds outside your house, tuning your sense door of hearing to the sounds outside your building, in your neighborhood. Maybe you hear an airplane or a helicopter, or a car or a truck, or birds, or the wind in a tree. Maybe you hear people's voices or music. Let yourself be still, and all of us will listen to the sounds of our neighborhood. Every neighborhood has its own quality of sound, its own orchestra. Let's all listen to the orchestra, the sounds that make up our neighborhood. Now, as we bring this mindful listening practice to an end, notice how listening carefully, just resting your attention on sound, brings a little smile to your face, a little happiness, a little sense of connection, a little sense of being part of the orchestra of sound in our neighborhood. And when you hear the bell, we can finish. That was a nice one. Mindful listening is an easy one to do with students. It's easy to do when they're at home. And it really helps them settle down again, turn their attention away from the computer screen, focusing on something that's a little bit in the distance, bringing a sense of depth and dimensionality, and expanding their awareness that we're all in our separate homes or buildings. We're all listening to sounds. All your students will be from the same city. We share that sense of hearing. We hear the city noises, the city breathing in and out, or the countryside breathing in and out. You can really let your students enjoy and relax and feel a sense of safety just in listening, just in being present, just in being connected. When we're connected with our sensory experience, even when the sounds that we hear are harsh and unpleasant, we feel less overwhelmed. And when we're aware that everyone in the classroom is listening in the same way. It creates that sense of doing something as a team, something together. Thank you so much. I really encourage you to enjoy this online classroom experience, as frustrating as it may be at times. We're all learning so many new skills and changing the way we teach, the way we listen. And there's a lot of good that will come out of this if we turn our attention to opportunities and positivity during this time. Be well, and I will talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Conscious Classroom. I'm your host, Amy Edelstein. Please check out the show notes on innerstrengthfoundation.net for links and more information. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend and pass the love on. See you next time.